Hey, Ideal Protein Nation. I'm back. Did you miss me? I know it's been a while and I apologize for that, but I've had a heck of a lot of stuff going on. Personal life possible stuff for me and also some remodeling going on here at Life Possible Studios. But I am back and I've got an amazing guest and an amazing show for you today. For those of you who may or may not be tuning in for the first time today, I'd just like to introduce you to the show. The Life Possible podcast basically spotlights successful clients, coaches, and clinic owners who have used the Ideal Protein Protocol to reset their body, reset their mind, and actually reset what's possible for their life. These individuals are leading a whole new life because of the transformation they've made. And as a result, they're pursuing goals and dreams that they thought were dead and gone. And they're pursuing goals and dreams that they never thought they could. And some are pursuing goals and dreams they never even knew they wanted to. So it's my hope that you will listen to these people, and that you will be able to understand that if they can do it, you can do it too. Who am I and why am I even doing this? Well, I'll tell you what, my name is Dr. John Barnes. And, there's no easy way to put this, but 6.5 years ago, I was fat, sick, and depressed. And I didn't see a way out. And I had actually given up. But I will tell you that I feel like God brought me the Ideal Protein Protocol as the answer to so many of my prayers, both personally and professionally. Here we are 6.5 years later, and I am actually over 65 pounds down from my initial body weight. And I'm actually pursuing 20-something goals and dreams that I had. I most recently, and one of the reasons why I haven't recorded this, but I've been training for the sport of triathlon now for the past 3 years. And a couple weeks ago, I realized a lifelong goal, and I completed my first half Ironman distance triathlon, which is 70.3 miles. I never, ever could have even considered this 6.5 years ago, much less completed it the way that I was able to, using the principles of a low-carb, healthy fat approach to diet and training over the past few years. And again, I'm here to tell you, if I can do something like this, you can do something like this. And that's what I hope that you'll get out of these shows. So who do I have for you today? Well, I tell you, I have for you today our featured guest, Dr. Linda Anegawa. Dr. Anegawa is an award-winning physician educator, writer, consultant, and she's dedicated to the treatment of metabolic and weight-related disease. She's double board certified in both obesity and internal medicine. And she's coming to us today from Honolulu, Hawaii, which I think is really pretty cool since I was in Alaska for one of my last shows. She's the winner of the Pacific Business News Top Doctor Award and the Honolulu Annual Top Doctors Award. Her expertise on metabolic and weight-related disease have been featured in U.S. News and World Report, the Huffington Post, Yahoo News, Women's Health, and Oprah Magazine, amongst others. You may have recognized her or know her if you actually tuned in to the Great Reset, Ideal Protein's virtual event that they hosted a few weeks back. I was so excited when I was invited to be a part of the virtual event as one of the speakers, and I saw that Dr. Anegawa was going to be presenting. Clinic owners and coaches, you probably recognize her because she's presented to us on behalf of the company on a number of different scientific topics. So without further ado, let me bring in Dr. Anegawa. Hey there, how are you?
Hi, John. How are you? Thanks
I'm
for
doing great.
me.
I'm so excited about this.
By the way, I really love the way you segued into talking about the podcast by bringing in those aspects of your own personal journey. That's absolutely fascinating, and it's a real inspiration.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. It's just what's created this whole passion and just a new purpose in my life.
Yeah, and we all need that sense of purpose, right? I mean, I think especially, I mean, the theme of the Great Reset really highlighted this as well, right? I mean, many of us just feel like we've been cornered and caged and trapped for so long by this viral pandemic
Yeah. Yeah.
that, it's a really amazing opportunity to kind of step back and take a good look at yourself and your life overall, right? I think one of the things that this pandemic has really brought to light for myself and certainly a lot of my patients is, anything can happen. Life is short. How do we want to step into the rest of our lives, right? How do we
Yep.
want to claim our well-being for whatever time we've got?
All right. We are 3 minutes into the show, and just that's mind blowing. Yes, absolutely. I mean, that's what's brought up a lot of these issues, and I hope that people are thinking much differently now, and I hope that people are taking things much more seriously. They're going to go after goals and dreams that they've been putting off because you never know, right?
Right? You absolutely never know. But, in order to chase our goals and our dreams and achieve them, right, we cannot do it in a body that is sick,
Absolutely.
as I'm sure you're perfectly aware from your own experience. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to talking about all that.
Oh, fantastic. Um, so I did want to start off because I'm fascinated, and I don't necessarily know the story myself, but I did want to kind of find out about your background and education and how it is that you decided to focus on obesity medicine.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of happened a little bit randomly, but there were other events going on in my life and career, such that everything really came together. So, I'm a classically trained internist. I would say the first half of my career was very traditional academic primary care internal medicine. So, practicing at a teaching hospital, mentoring students and residents. I kind of rose through the ranks. At one point, became associate dean of the medical school at University of Hawaii.
Wow. Oh, wow.
And yeah, and I loved teaching. I still do. It's one of the best things that I get to do every time I'm with a patient. But what was becoming apparent to me after a few years of doing this as a young faculty member is that I realized that pretty much all my work was managing chronic disease, right?
Yep.
I never truly felt that I was making people better. And, it would be like a monthly or an every 3 month cycle, of bringing the patients back into the clinic, increasing doses of medications, um, counseling them that, oh, guess what? You've got diabetes. Now we see you're starting to leak protein through your kidneys, right? So your kidneys are starting
Yep.
to go. The deterioration is going to continue, right? Um, and again, it was just a question of more medicine and just feeling on a very deep level that I was missing something very, 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 very important. And so the funny thing that happened then was one of my colleagues who worked in a bariatric surgery clinic, he was like kind of doing the pre and post operative evaluations on patients who had bariatric surgery, right?
Okay.
And he asked me to help him out because he didn't want to work on the weekends anymore. So I started helping out on the weekends. And, that was really the first time I had ever seen anyone with diabetes come off insulin. That was the first time that I saw people able to reduce their blood pressure medicines, their cholesterol medicines, et cetera, right? And so, I think while I don't really feel that bariatric surgery is the answer for everybody, right? It's definitely a huge step. It was my first eye-opening moment that,
Yeah.
what? There is a way to reverse disease. And so I became like a sponge, trying to figure out, well, how do we do that without bariatric surgery, right? Is that even possible to do? And so that actually led me to finding the field of obesity medicine. And I attended my first meeting. And when I heard the talks by Dr. Eric Westman, who's the founder of the Greek Lifestyle Medical Center,
Yes.
and Sarah Hallberg, who's absolutely famous for, disrupting healthcare with
Right.
her views on diabetes reversal and
She's
remission.
amazing. Yep.
Yeah, so I think it was almost like I was at like a Metallica concert or something because I just rushed the stage afterwards. I was
I
like,
love
I
that.
gotta talk to you, like I this is like basically a light bulb
Yeah.
going off for me,
Oh my
right? And
God.
everything that I had been missing. Um, and so from there I began to pivot, right? I
Yep.
started looking for more opportunities to use nutrition, use behavior, use the best of the field that obesity medicine has to offer, right? And then from there, everything just kind of snowballed. So
Yep. I
I
can
got
see how that
involved.
would happen.
Yeah, so I got involved in program building. I met the Ideal Protein representative at a follow up Obesity Medicine Association meeting.
Okay.
We clicked instantly. It was like I loved the science. I couldn't believe how amazing the products were because one of the things that I think many of my patients were struggling with was the lack of structure, the lack of guidance, right?
Yep.
The
Yep.
lack of a tool right there. And so anyway, then what I did was took the ideal protein method, put it into practice at a physical medicine practice that I became associated with. And I was medical director there. We grew it to 3 locations very quickly. Then I got it picked up by a 4-hospital health system here in Hawaii. And it's like,
Wow.
everything just kind of kept going. And I became more involved with the company. So I'm
Yep.
on the medical advisory board and now on the medical executive board. And, it's a true passion of mine to really bring what we offer, to doctors, to patients, because the time has never been more urgent,
Yes.
right, to address our metabolic health.
Yep. Oh my gosh. You're absolutely blowing my mind. Um, so for me, what I think is funny, I guess we share a lot of the same geekhood, if you will, because I probably would have rushed the stage too.
I feel like I should have maybe been a little embarrassed afterwards, but
No,
I
not
couldn't
at
let
all.
the opportunity go.
And Sarah Halberg, I saw her TED talk, and she opens it up by saying, "I have the best job in the world." And as I was listening to that, I said, "No, I do." And then I thought, "Oh, wait, she's going to say," and she says, "I am an obesity medicine doctor."
Right, right. It truly is. I mean, and I think once that shift in my career was really happening, and I shifted from being a manager of chronic disease, right,
Mhm.
to empowering my patients to take control of their metabolic health, I mean, it was like it was a renewal for me professionally as well as personally, right? Because, I mean, I got to tell you too, like, I didn't really know how much longer I was going to be able to practice medicine, John.
Wow.
Like, doing what I was doing before, right? I mean,
Yeah.
just the frustration, the burnout, you leave work every day sad, like I
Oh,
haven't done anything for anybody.
I can't
So,
even imagine.
yeah, so it's
No.
completely different now.
And again, the whole concept that it seems like patients have, but also doctors have, is that once they get those diagnoses, that they are chronic, progressive, degenerative diseases without any hope of remission or reversal or improvement.
I would agree 100%. And, one of the first things that I like to say to my patients, because when I'm telling them about a new diabetes diagnosis, for example,
Mhm.
it's devastating news to people, right? Oftentimes they have a family history of diabetes. They've seen loved ones suffer from the long-term effects of those diseases, right? The neuropathy, the vascular issues, you name it. And just you can see how frightened they are. But to be able to offer them a tool and to say, you know what, how would you like to work on getting remission of this disease? Right? I mean, I don't think I've ever had a patient like raise their hand and say, nah, you know what? Put me on some of that insulin you got.
Right? Sign me up for that. And then more and more and more.
And more and more and more and more. Exactly.
Yeah.
Sign me up for
Yeah.
kidney dialysis. Anyway, same with blood pressure, right? Yeah, sign me up for, 4 different drugs and strokes. I mean, no, definitely not.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Oh, fantastic. You've already started to draw a correlation or start discussing the idea of metabolic health. And this is one of the things that I wanted to try to talk about and bring up for people to understand, because as you and I both have discussed, you cannot you cannot disassociate the two. Metabolic health and obesity or weight gain are interrelated. There is no one without the other.
Yeah, that's correct, John. So, I mean, in terms of defining metabolic health, I mean, from a very technical standpoint, right, we define it as normal blood glucose and A1C, normal triglyceride to HDL ratio. Those are two of the lipids that are found in the blood. Normal blood pressure and a healthy waist circumference, which is a little bit different for women and men.
Okay.
For me, I think especially in light of the COVID pandemic, I prefer a much broader definition of metabolic health, right?
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
including strong immunity and
Mhm.
disease resistance, right?
Yes,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah, free of chronic inflammation that we know causes the COVID-19 virus to snowball in the body, as well as psychological well-being. And I think that that's something that we don't often talk about in terms of
Mhm.
metabolic health. But we now know there is a distinctive link, for example, between refractory depressive symptoms and
Mhm.
poor metabolic health,
Yep,
right?
been there.
Um, Alzheimer's disease, poor metabolic health. I heard one doc call it, maybe you've heard this, Alzheimer's type 3 diabetes.
Absolutely, yep.
Yeah. So, I think we need to look at metabolic health not just in terms of what the scale says or what every single number says. We really want to focus, like I said, on this very broad definition. And sadly, it's taking the pandemic to shed light on just how sick we are as a population, right?
Yes,
Um,
100%. And
yeah.
that's, I'm sure that your news feed, your social media feed, very similar to mine since we've compared our notes before the show. But we were seeing that right out of the gate, and it was very easy for us to pick up that obesity, heart disease, and diabetes were the three number one comorbidities of the people who were being hospitalized and or dying from COVID. That was
I
very
agree.
apparent, very quick.
It was apparent, John, but I guess I also felt like obesity was the elephant in the room. Nobody really wanted to hit obesity head on as being a
Nope.
contributor. There was a lot of downplaying, there was a lot of tiptoeing around it until that Kaiser study came out and showed it very dramatically that second only to age, your chance of dying is strongly correlated with your weight. And I think once that study came out, and it was very, very well done, an excellent paper, I think that was one of the key factors to get the tide turning, because it's kind of like you and I were chatting before. Sometimes people just think about obesity as a cosmetic issue,
Right.
right?
Right.
But it's absolutely not a cosmetic issue,
No.
I think
100%.
it's sad. I mean, ever since the AMA declared obesity as a disease now, probably, gosh, almost a decade ago, I still feel like we are struggling to get that across, not just in the medical community, of course, but, out there everywhere.
Yeah, well, that leads us into that discussion where being in the weight loss space and arena as we are, again, we kind of battle a lot of different attitudes and social situations, et cetera, social, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but bottom line is, weight loss is healthcare that our patients deserve. It should be put in that perspective and not just some kind of superficial everybody deserves to wear a size whatever, right? It's not about that. It's about health.
100%. And, I think the more we get that message out, the more we spotlight the critical factor that our weight plays in chronic disease and so many other concerns, I think is very, very, very important.
Yeah. And getting back to the concept of metabolic health, there's a crazy statistic out there that what percentage of our country is actually considered metabolically healthy? It's something like 12%,
About
right?
12%. Yeah, which is
About
crazy.
12%. It
It's
is
crazy.
crazy.
I mean,
And you were bringing up the idea that weight was the elephant in the room. That was on our mass media, right? That was on the mainstream media. They did not talk about that. Your social feed, my media feed, et cetera, we were seeing it constantly all the time, and you kept waiting for it to come out and guidelines, right? Waiting for guidelines from the leaders to say, hey, while you're holed up in your house, why don't we start working on some of these comorbidities? Why don't we start maybe working on the elephant in the room?
yeah, I think it's sad. I mean, I think we really lack key leadership in that arena, because, I mean, let's face it, like Dr. Hallberg pointed out in her TED Talk, and like so many others have pointed out as well, Tim Noakes, all those other individuals, as long as, companies in this country are making money off of selling junk food, it's really, really hard to change guidelines. It's really, really hard to change standards.
Yeah, and there's been some really great papers that have just come out. It's getting to the point where they can't ignore it, and really great papers coming out discussing, a consensus for a different approach to the U.S. dietary guidelines,
Yeah.
consensus on all kinds of different things in this. So pretty soon, someone's going to have to make some kind of change. You would hope.
Yeah, no, I think so. And here's where I think there's definitely a ray of hope, and a light at the end of the tunnel. Um, as we transition as a medical community to care models that are more value based, right? Rather than just fee for service, you show up at your appointment, you submit a claim, the clinic makes money, right?
Mhm.
So as we transition to models where value, right? Like what are you actually getting out of your healthcare, right? What's happening to your numbers? What's happening to the amount of medications you're on? What's happening to your data on emergency room visits? How many times you've been to the hospital? And I'm proud to say that I think our company is really leading the way, right, in making this about a value proposition, because the healthier we get our patients as a population, right, the cost to society, the cost to business is
Yep.
so much lower. And of course, and I don't mean to belittle the point of what a huge difference this makes on individuals' day-to-day lives, right? I
Right.
mean,
Right.
simple things like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen my feet, in
Yep.
5 years, or
Yep.
chase my grandkids around the yard and I don't have any pain anymore,
It's a huge one.
right? Or I don't have to like constantly be checking my blood pressure because I'm on so many medications.
Yeah. 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 Absolutely. Um, So let's segue this way, and again, kind of keeping in the light of the Ideal Protein program and the way the program works, et cetera. I always talk about it's a situation of getting healthy so that you can lose weight, as opposed to necessarily just losing weight so that you can get healthy, happening from the inside out.
Yep, yep. So absolutely. I think we suffer from a number of different myths about how weight gain happens and why we're in this predicament that we're in, right? So, way back when I was a medical student, um, we used to say people were naughty, they ate a bunch of junk food, they gain weight, and then their bodies become sick as a result, right? So now we know that it's actually the reverse, right? To that chicken and egg scenario, right? That, we suffer from dis-ease already, right, with our metabolic health. And that facilitates abnormal gain of weight when exposed to the standard American diet,
Yep.
right? There's some of us that have very thrifty genes, right? There's some of us who are super efficient fat storers, right? But back when we were cave people, it wasn't that much of a terrible issue because we were mobile herders. We had to hunt our antelope. We had to climb trees and whack off coconuts. I'm just using the Hawaii analogy here,
There you go.
whatever it was. We expended a tremendous amount of energy to maintain our fat stores, which we don't do anymore. So, the way our bodies work, which was designed to help us stay alive,
Yep.
is now the very mechanism that is killing us. And so I think what is so powerful about the way our protocol uses ketosis is it simply flips the switch. It simply reactivates our body's natural innate ability to burn fat for us. It is literally a reset. And I think that's one of the reasons why the old eat less, exercise more thing simply doesn't work on its own, right?
Yep.
Because
Yep.
our bodies are smart. We evolved, right? So that if you start eating way, way less and trying to burn as much energy as you possibly can, we kick in powerful mechanisms to maintain that weight, right? If I showed you a diagram, John, of the different pathways in our brain that are designed to maintain our weight, it would look like a giant spaghetti bowl, like the biggest spaghetti bowl in the whole world, right? That's
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
complicated it is. So by resetting our metabolism, by letting your body do what it's already hardwired to do through the process of ketosis in the beginning of our protocol,
Mhm.
it makes so much sense. It really does.
Yeah, absolutely. We kind of talk about in our office how we've been eating. The pendulum has been swung all the way over here to this one side with that standard American diet, and in order to create some balance and lose the weight and get the metabolism back, we need to take that pendulum the other way, right, for a little while, and that's where we get into ketosis.
Yeah, and I
Um,
think, we don't talk about this as much as well, but I think for people who have been struggling, like for years or even decades or most of their life, right? When you equip them with that power of the ketogenic protocol and they just see how much their body can do, what a huge spark of motivation, right?
yeah,
And
absolutely.
it's like, how can we get through what we have to do to reinvent ourselves and reset if we really don't feel and believe that it's actually going to work? So I just love that. Like, my favorite visit with our ideal protein protocol patients was always that first visit after they restarted or started
Yep.
rather.
Yep.
And you can just see the amazement, like, what just happened to my body? The scale
Right,
is
right.
actually going down for once. My gosh, how did that happen?
Yep. Yep. And they're already feeling different, right?
Right.
I mean, that even within that first 7 days, they come in, we can kind of peg who had a great first week and who didn't just by looking at their face.
Yep.
Like you said, number one, they've got a smile on their face. And number two, they've got a healthy glow
Yep.
and they've got more pep in their step. And, it is just an amazing, amazing way to get started.
Yeah, well, I think Volek and Finney, rather, they demonstrated that within 12 days of beginning the process of nutritional ketosis, all of those markers of inflammation in the blood come way down, right? So, like you said, right, your CRP, all of those
Wow.
different things. So, people are immediately less inflamed, right?
Yep.
And the inflammation is at the root of all of these symptoms that plague us.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And so we kind of talked about, and you're alluding to it now as we got into this discussion. It's a difference and also Jeff Volek was on a new paper that was written specifically about this. Instead of the eat less and exercise more model of weight loss, more of the carb insulin model of weight management. Can you touch on that a little bit for us and help us understand the difference in thought there?
Yeah, absolutely. So essentially, the eat less and exercise more, that model basically treats your body as though it was a math equation, right? Calories in, calories out, right? You're either in positive energy balance and negative energy balance, but that's only a small part of the story. So we know that the hormone insulin is actually an incredibly powerful regulator of our body weight. When insulin is high, okay, it's
Yep.
essentially like turning a key on your cells, right? It's turning a key on muscle cells to allow any sugar in your blood to flow into the muscle cell and be stored as glycogen or utilized for energy, right? So insulin
Yep.
turns that key. Now, the problem is, and it works pretty well for many people, except if you have been exposed for decades to the standard American diet, right?
Yep.
Which is
Yep.
very carb heavy, right? So what happens is your insulin levels are high all the time. And what do
Hmm.
those muscle cells do? They say, ooh, we're getting bombarded with too much of this hormone. It down regulates its ability to respond to the insulin.
Hmm.
So over time, that muscle cell becomes less and less and less responsive to insulin. So that means the carbs and sugars that we're eating don't get taken into the muscle and burned off. Where do they go? They go into fat cells. And when that happens, they are stored as triglycerides. So our fat cells increase, right? Both in our peripheral tissues as well as around the belly, what we call visceral fat.
Hmm.
And with the growth of more and more visceral fat, that's what creates even more metabolic havoc in our bodies. Our insulin resistance increases, our inflammation goes up dramatically, right? And
Yep.
that's where all the health problems come in. So it's so simple to reverse it, right? We've got to allow our muscle cells time to relearn how to respond to insulin, right? So the carb insulin model of weight loss basically dictates we reduce those carbohydrates, right, as much as we possibly can in the beginning.
Hmm.
That
Yep.
allows the pancreas, the organ that makes the insulin, to then rest. Those muscle cells are not being bombarded with so much insulin. So in time, they'll regain insulin sensitivity. But the other thing that happens when insulin is low, enzymes are activated in the fat cell called lipoprotein lipase. And what does this do? Quite simply, it just busts up the fat, right?
Yeah.
And so you have basically reversed your body's tendency from being a fat storage machine to a fat burning machine. And
Boom.
that is how we utilize the carbohydrate insulin model to get the
Yeah.
results that are needed.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a whole different approach, a whole different way of thinking about things, and super effective.
Oh, I guess I should also mention this is very, very important, John. So if you just reduce your calories or exercise more, how does our body compensate? It kicks in hunger mechanisms, right? So
It's
people
the two most common ways to make yourself more hungry: eat less and exercise more, right?
bingo, yes, absolutely. But the beautiful thing is when we reduce insulin, patients don't struggle with hunger to
Yes.
nearly that same degree. As a matter of fact, people are often shocked by how not hungry they feel.
Yep.
So, gosh, it is way easier to lose weight when you are not starving and like dreaming
100%.
of cupcakes and potato chips all the time, right?
Right.
And I think from a more behavioral standpoint as well, John, one of the things that I noticed the first time I did the protocol, and that my patients notice, is that you know what? I'm becoming more powerful than my hunger, right? So many people just feel controlled and consumed by
Mm.
constant hunger and cravings as a result of being on the standard American diet. But this carb insulin model, following this in order to improve your metabolic health and get the weight loss benefit as well, it also gives you a really strong psychological benefit. Like, I'm more than my hunger, you know? And that is liberation right there.
Absolutely. Your confidence increases. Again, finally, something that you're doing is making the difference it's supposed to do, gives you that sense of control, right? Yeah, such a great insight there, which is a great segue to the next part of our program. We did kind of say we didn't want to get too sciencey today. I think that we dove in pretty deep. It's hard when two geeks get together like this and just want to talk about all of that great stuff. However, man, I tell you, the whole mindset portion of weight loss and resetting your mind, if you will. I think that we really want to address that and things that are necessary to even get started doing a program that is potentially going to be a very large lifestyle change.
Yeah. So this can be daunting, I mean, I'm not going to lie, right? I've had patients come to me and they say, my primary doctor told me I need to lose 100 pounds. And then it's like deer in the headlights, like, well, gosh, that wasn't very helpful. The
Right.
poor patient is like completely confused and they really don't even know what the first step is, right? So, mindset shift is absolutely critical. And we can kind of talk about that in a number of different ways. The
Yeah.
first thing that I always tell people is this is not a diet, okay? We're not
Yep.
going on yet another diet. We are going to change our mindset so that we really view this as a lifestyle. And I know that's a huge cliche. And then many people would ask the question, well, how do I do that? Like,
Right.
I've never done that before. Step one, you got to know your why for change, right?
Yes.
So the first thing that I ask patients when I see them is, what bothers you right now about the weight that you're at, right? What
It's
really
such
bothers you? And,
it seems like such a simple question, but it's so profound. And when I saw that, when I read that, I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to use that from now on.
yeah, feel free. Because, I mean, I think the problem is people will come to an obesity medicine specialist saying, my doctor says I need to lose weight. My doctor says my blood pressure is too high. My doctor says I'm taking too many medicines. That's not your why, right? Your why is what makes you really uncomfortable, right? And,
Yep.
it can be a lot of different things. I would say that the health reason is usually the biggest why motivator for people, but I encourage you to get as specific as you possibly can. Like some people say, well, I want my health to be better. Dig deeper. That's not
Yeah.
going to be enough, because when you struggle later on, when you have a weight plateau, when you deal with, I don't know, whatever stressors life throws at us, a pandemic, financial difficulties, crises with our kids, right? You need to go back to that why. So if people don't have their why on their first visit with me, I send them away until they come back with their why, right?
I love that.
Yeah. So like one of my patients, I'll never forget it, like tears welled up in her eyes. And she said, I never want to sleep with that CPAP again. It's the most horrible, horrible, horrible thing. And I hate it. And it makes me feel terrible. And it makes me feel ugly. And it makes me feel like I'm old and crippled and infirm, to have to sleep with this loud machine
Right.
next to me, to prevent me from stopping breathing. I
Yeah.
never want that CPAP again.
Uh,
So I think when we get to that heart, it's such an important first step towards that mindset shift, right?
yeah.
Another thing that's so important is figuring out the difference between motivation and readiness, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Readiness for that lifestyle change, right? So, most of us are like, we're super excited. I can't wait to get 20 pounds off. I can't wait to feel good. I can't wait to put on my old jeans, whatever it is, right? So,
Right. Right.
you may be like raring to go, the guns are blazing, but have you thought about what you actually need to do to be ready to carry all that out? And that's where I find a lot of people fall short on that path to lifestyle change. So, what do I mean by ready, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. Can you flesh that out for us?
absolutely. I mean, you can have all the motivation in the world, right? But, like, for example, if your pantry at home is still filled with junk food, right, that is going to derail you time and time again. If you're motivated as all heck, but you have like the busiest schedule in the world and you haven't learned how to carve out time for yourself and your goals, right?
Hmm.
All the
Yep.
motivation in the world is not going to work. And then I think finally, but maybe in the most challenging of all these things, I often find so many of my patients do not communicate with their closest friends and family members about how they need that support, right? Like, just even this was sort of pre pandemic, but I think it's becoming more relevant now as people are going back to the office.
Hmm. Yep.
The social pressure of that break room. Like,
Mm.
oh, don't you want, these cinnamon buns? Or, oh, I baked a cake to share with everybody today. Unless you've really had that conversation to let them know, you know what? I've started the Ideal Protein Protocol to reset my metabolic health. I really appreciate you guys thinking of me. The best way you can support me, right, is maybe by
Wow.
not, shoving all that stuff in my face. Or like, okay, this is really crazy, John. I have this patient who was so dedicated, like she was undergoing fertility treatment. She needed to lose weight before her doctor would proceed with more fertility treatment.
Yep.
So that
Yep.
was her why. She made little stickers of cute babies and she literally stuck it on different places all because she's like, I just want to keep being reminded of
Yep.
the
Yep.
baby that I want so desperately.
Yeah.
And then I found out her husband was eating candy in bed every night.
My God.
I know, and it broke my heart. It broke my
Yeah.
heart for her
It
because
does.
it's like, she probably told him that this is important, but did she really sit down and have that heart to heart? This is what I need from you,
Wow.
right?
Yes.
This is what I
That is
need.
absolutely amazing. This is so
Yeah.
powerful.
And it's painful, it's difficult, it's
Mhm.
not easy for many people to do. But these are the steps to get ready and they have to be followed, right?
Mhm.
I mean,
Yep.
if you ignore it, like I said, it's just the journey is not going to end the same way, in my opinion.
It makes it twice as hard for sure. Absolutely. So many people actually try to do it and hide the fact that they are doing it, right?
Right. Yeah.
They don't want to have to explain it. They don't want to have to, and more often than not, then they cave to those social pressures, when they're out to dinner with their friends or when they're over, putting themselves in situations like that.
Well, it's hard. I think part of being out there with the protocol, and let's face it, when you're doing it, you're very out there, right? You've got all these different little packaged foods, and
Yep.
people want to know where you're getting it from. And oh, no, you can't just get it on Amazon. It's not like
Right.
that. I think
Right.
also there's a fear of failure that we have too, right? By putting
Oh yeah.
ourselves out there, and that's a big deal.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, that you just helped so many people with just that last 5 minutes there.
The other thing too, I think that I want to throw in as as an important point is along with the ideal protein protocol. If you're one of those individuals that has really struggled, like to have these conversations with loved ones, putting your needs first.
Hmm.
I love to get people involved with psychotherapy and other behavioral support, right?
Yes. Yes.
Which kind of gives you a voice, right? It gives you a voice for your needs. And, I think it's something that will really equip you for your entire journey.
Yeah. In fact, I had done a show with Sonia Jones, which if you haven't seen that one, Sonia is so 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 amazing. But she's got a therapist that's associated with her clinic, and that's always been something that has been in my mind. And we most recently we've started to incorporate that. We have a wonderful therapist who gets it. One of my coaches uses her personally, and we've actually started a 6-week group that meets in our office on emotional eating and things of that nature. And it's already just one of the best things that we've ever been able to do.
Yeah, I mean that is a key intervention, John. It
Yeah.
really is. And like I like to say a lot of times, people come to us because they're concerned about their weight, right? But the weight is not really the problem, right?
Right.
It's what's underneath, right? It's poor metabolic health. It's, a behavioral or emotional disturbance, if you will, right?
Hmm.
So it's kind of similar. I like to use the analogy of like a fever. When somebody has a fever, they could have strep throat, they could have COVID-19, they could have leukemia. I don't know what you have when you have a fever. And, if you suffer from obesity, right, we have to figure out what's underneath that, right? What's driving that abnormality in your body's tissues, get to the heart of it, physical, emotional, psychological, spiritual, right?
Hmm. Yep.
Whatever it is, right? And, addressing that in as holistic a way as possible. I just can't overstate
Yeah.
rather.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. One of the things that I wanted to touch on that seems to be one of your uh, topics that you like is the idea of setting goals and setting goals that aren't just the scale, not just a number. And
Yeah.
and what does actually kind of defining what does success look like for you, which is going to be different for everybody.
Yeah. I mean, this is really tough, because we know that some numbers are important, right?
Hmm.
So we know from substantial amount of data that, even a 5 to 7% reduction in your body weight improves glycemic control if you're affected by diabetes, right? We're all familiar with that scary BMI chart, right? I mean, so I'm not going to say that numbers don't matter, but
Hmm.
in terms of goal setting, I like to counsel people that there is probably a range of weights at which your body and mind can be healthy, right? Do we all have to be a size 2? Should we be setting that goal? Absolutely not, right?
Right.
Um, so I think the key with goal setting is number one, making sure that it is individualized, right?
Yep.
Making sure that it is achievable for you, right? I mean,
Yep.
my patient
Yep.
whose doctor said to her, you need to lose 100 pounds. how motivated or interested do you think she was in setting that goal, right? It's like, that's a really big one, right?
Yep.
So, especially when people embark on a complete, life-changing protocol, like the Ideal Protein Protocol, I like to tell people, you know what, let's take it 10 pounds at a time and see how you feel,
Mm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And even if I have people who say, well, I only want to lose, 15 pounds, I'm afraid I'm going to get too skinny, or I'm afraid I'm not going to like the way I look, or whatever. Okay, fine. Let's take it 10 pounds at a time. Let's see how you feel. And all of a sudden they're like, holy smokes, I feel completely different. I want to keep going.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we have defined measurements for, goals on the scale, body fat percentages as well. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Do I think it's realistic for every single patient to, try to get down to 20% body fat? I don't. I don't think it's necessarily realistic, possible, or medically necessary. I think a lot of people get put off from even trying by not setting realistic goals.
Yeah.
Goals
Yeah.
should always be measurable, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, something that's vague or ambiguous, not as tangible, I think is going to be challenging. But if it's a measurable goal, like, you know what, I want my morning fasting blood sugars to all be under 100. Measurable, right?
Right. Right. Yeah. Absolutely. One of the things, and you've kind of talked about it a little bit, but one of the things that comes up as patients are going through the protocol, invariably they're going to come up, whether it's in weight loss or in maintenance, et cetera, is life's ups and downs. And I know that you kind of have an approach that you like to actually call it flowing with life's ups and downs.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we focus a lot on fueling, of course, in our protocol, right? The
Right.
right combination of macronutrients when you're going into ketosis later on, when you're learning and understanding your unique macro code, right? That's all part of fueling. So,
Mm-hmm.
flowing, right, is also what I like to call creating resiliency for yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, I think that's very, very important, or we get trapped in this black and white diet mentality, right? So, how do we do this? So, movement is a great way to create resiliency. I never like to use the word exercise because for a lot of people, it brings up such negative connotations. People like
Right.
imagine themselves trying to fit into some spandex outfit that's really uncomfortable and everybody's looking at you in the gym and, there's all these fit people around there. It's very intimidating. So, movement, right, can be so much broader than exercise. Maybe it's, playing with your dog in the living room when you're on a Zoom break. Maybe it's some yoga stretches. Maybe it's a quick walk around the block. Maybe it's even deciding that you're going to do your own windows this time instead of calling in a window cleaner, right? You're going to accomplish something and you're going to get movement in, right? So movement creates emotional flexibility as well as resiliency to help you, right? When you're hit with whatever life is going to throw us, right?
Yeah.
So daily movement reduces stress, reduces blood pressure, releases endorphins for the body, right? Those are the feel good hormones that help to balance our mood.
Yes.
As is other things like mindfulness, stress reduction,
Mm-hmm.
and getting just the right amount of sleep every night, right? If you're not having all of these addressed at the same time that you're making that eating shift, again, it is going to get in the way of your progress at some point. And I can't emphasize how important these are when we start talking about phase 2, 3, and beyond, right?
Building the lifestyle. Yep.
Building the lifestyle. Yeah. So I like to start talking about flowing right in the beginning, just like we do in the protocol, right? We're already teaching people the maintenance lessons that they need to learn, right? In phase
Yep.
1, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
so I feel that same way about flowing. And so, with exercise, again, I think this also ties into the goal setting. So many of us think, okay, I got to go be like Dr. John. I'm going to run a marathon. Wait, what? How am I going to do that?
Right, right.
I get short of breath even walking up the stairs in my house. So breaking it down first into those small goals, right? Creating
Yep.
movement in your day in a way that's meaningful to you. And yeah, and then eventually we're all going to be triathletes. Triathletes.
Well, and that also brings up the point though. And I always say, what, that's my life possible. And that's very personal for me. But I don't want everybody to be a triathlete. What is your life possible? And like you said, movement takes on so many different forms. I've found, and a couple of my coaches, amazing that they have gotten into kayaking. Talk about wonderful movement, get you outside, a whole different thing, and never ever would have considered doing that at their initial starting weight or in their old life. So many different ways that you can do that, and the number one benefit, and I try to get everybody removed from the calorie burning. The number one benefit happens up here, right? Most benefits of exercise happen above the neck.
100%. I completely agree. And, speaking of kayaking, I think any fun thing that you like to do outdoors qualifies. Like I've had a number of people who take up gardening and they
Mm-hmm.
absolutely love that. Gardening is movement, right?
Yep. Yep.
And it also cultivates it cultivates creativity for you too, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And mental flexibility. So just benefits all around.
Yeah. Super, super important. We've covered a whole lot. And one of the things that I saw, and we're going to get to talk about your book here real quick because you wrote a book that's just recently come out. One of the quotes that you have in your book that I wanted to kind of finish up on was the idea. It's a quote from Simon Sinek that says, "Progress is more important than perfection." Can you touch on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think my reason for putting that quote in the book is again to emphasize flexibility in our thinking, right? Rather than you're dieting or you're cheating, you're all in or you're all out, right? That doesn't lend ourselves to a lifestyle where we can maintain health improvements, right? And, I think the thing that I also really love about this quote is that, you know, rather than setting vastly unrealistic goals for yourself early on, just take things in baby steps. It's so much more doable, you know? It's
Mm-hmm.
like the Japanese proverb, right? The tiny grand, I can't remember exactly what it is. I'm going to say it wrong. But basically, when you add together all the tiny grains of sand, right, you build a mountain. And, I think having that mindset that any movement, no matter how small, in that right direction is still movement in the right direction. I had a lady who, a patient I was talking to last night, and she was like, I'm so angry at myself. I am so disappointed. I only lost 4 pounds this month.
Oh my God.
And I
Yeah.
was like, wait, what? And, as it turns out, like she had gone to 3 funerals. She had to
Mm-hmm.
start back to teaching school in person. And, the
Mm-hmm.
district wasn't handling it well with all of the different COVID restrictions. And I mean, just stress upon stress upon stress.
Right.
And she's, I'm so disappointed. And,
Right.
she was like waiting for me to respond. And I don't know what she thought I was going to do, right? To like yell at her
To
or chew her
pile on,
out.
yeah, to pile on and
Pile
reinforce that,
on,
right?
no. And I was like, well, gosh, I had the complete opposite reaction. I'm incredibly proud of you for weathering that storm. And actually, one of the things that helped her weather the storm is she started weightlifting. So, she doesn't go to the gym. It's too expensive. She's very afraid of, COVID-19 still, right?
Right, right.
But she started just using stuff in her house, right? Like
Yeah.
lifting heavy boxes, lifting water bottles.
Yeah,
Her
yeah.
version of movement was giving her that flexibility that she needed to continue on her path in spite of everything else.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's awesome. Yeah, yeah. So I actually have it right here. Not another keto book. Oh my
What is
gosh.
that?
Do we need another one of those?
I didn't think so. When the material for this book has kind of been growing gradually, and I got really derailed on finishing the book at the start of COVID-19, just because there was so much we needed to do in primary care, and to grow
Yeah.
and scale our company Plush Care. It was just bananas.
Yeah.
But then further on in the pandemic, I was like, no, you know what? This is really important for me to continue writing about. Once we started to see people with COVID-19 disease, that was impacted profoundly by their poor metabolic health. So yeah,
Yeah.
that allowed me to put the pedal to the metal, and I got the book finished. So no, it is not another keto book. It is about kind of approaching the journey in all the ways that we talked about today.
Yeah.
And importantly, figuring out what you need to do in order to create this space in your life to make your new life possible overall. I do talk about ketosis. I talk about how the process works in your
Yep.
body.
Yep.
We
Yeah.
talk a lot about the carb insulin model of
Hmm.
weight gain. So if you want to get a little sciencey and geeky in there, you
Yeah.
can. But the book is hopefully much more than that to my readers.
Yeah. No, and it's again a wonderful blend of that, along with everything we just talked about as far as mindset and mindfulness and all of that goes. And I think that probably is a great microcosm of how you practice, how you approach your patients, and just a great example. So, and I would also say, again, clinic owners and coaches, a great book to pick up. I couldn't even get through. I'm a highlighter guy, right? So I couldn't even get through your intro. That your whole intro is yellow because literally, and I've been saying a lot of those things on our show. The whole COVID-19 overlay with the obesity pandemic, all of those things, just so poignant, timely, and powerful. So yeah, so it's really kind of cool. And like I said, man, I'm so impressed with the people, the heavy hitters in the keto space who have endorsed it. I think that's so neat.
Yeah,
Congratulations on that. That's
thank you. I
yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah, well, thank you. I want to thank you so much for being on the show today, helping me come back from my hiatus. I think it's an amazing show to come back with. You've sent some wonderful things. I don't necessarily listen to all my shows over again, but I'm going to have to listen to this one over again because really, you gave us some really great material as clients, as coaches, and as clinic owners. I think everybody's going to get something out of this that they can use tomorrow.
Fantastic. And if anybody wants to contact me, if you have any specific questions, you can definitely connect through my website. Yeah, happy to take any questions
Yeah,
or
yeah, and that website is Anegawa-MD.com.
correct.com. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, a beautiful website. Well, thank you again, and I hope we'll have a conversation in the future. I hope we actually get to meet sometime in the future. The whole super weekends and all of those things. I can't wait for clinic owners and coaches and people to be able to get together personally and discuss all these things and be in the same room together. So let's cross
Yes.
our
Oh my
fingers for that.
gosh. We are all looking forward to that.
Yeah. 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 All right. Thank you so much, Doc.
Thanks, John.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's a wrap. The episode number 34 of the Life Possible podcast. I hope you got some great stuff out of that. I hope you will pass it on to family and friends that you think could benefit from it. I hope the coaches and clinic owners and other people will listen to this multiple times so that they can get everything, all the benefits from it. I am going to go back to the drawing board. We're going to have another episode for you, hopefully in about 2 weeks. And so until then, keep pursuing your life possible.